Good evening. Welcome to the City of West Bend. This is a meeting of the Plan Commission. It is Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. More than 24 hours in advance of this meeting, notice the time, place, date, and subject matter of the meeting was posted in accordance to Wisconsin state statute. I'd invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We recognize a full quorum of our Plan Commission here with us tonight. Our first item of business is approval of the minutes of our regular meeting, Plan Commission meeting held on October 1st, 2024.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jeff. Any comments, questions, corrections? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're going to move into a couple of public hearings tonight. Our first public hearing is on a conditional use permit, so I'll turn it over to John.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Our first public hearing tonight is a request of action for conditional use permit to allow for the construction of a single-family residential home on a vacant lot located at 341 South 7th Avenue by Habitat for Humanity of Washington and Dodge County.
Jim, do you want to take us through that?
Sure. Thank you. So this conditional use is in order for the Habitat for Humanity to construct a single-family home on a two-family lot, we have to do a conditional use permit under our zoning code. Really what it is just an architectural review of the building to make sure it's compatible with the area for the other buildings within there. They submitted a Plat of Survey. The Plat of Survey conforms to the setback requirements of the RD2 zoning. And the building itself is a very simple building. It's going to be sided with LP siding and very similar to the rest of the neighborhoods for the building materials. Two-story house, and it's fitting on a very small legal non-conforming lot that we had that was platted way back in the original subdivisions of the city.
Great, thank you, Jim. I will now open the public hearing on this topic. Again, this is a public hearing for a conditional use permit to allow for the construction of a single-family residential home on the vacant lot located at 341 South 7th Avenue by Habitat for Humanity of Washington and Dodge County. So if anybody from the public wishes to address the Plan Commission on this topic, now is your time. Just come to the microphone and state your name, and your comments will be heard.
Move to close.
Second. Move to close the public hearing by Chris, second by Matt. Any comments, questions, discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and the public hearing is now closed. Any comments, questions, discussion on the topic? Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Matt. Second was Paul? John. Sorry. Thanks, John. Last opportunity for comments, questions, discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We'll move on to a comprehensive plan and zoning amendment. John.
Thank you. This second public hearing is for the request of action of a land use change to the city's 2020 comprehensive plan for approximately 34 acres of land located at the northeast corner of South 18th Avenue and County Trunk Highway NN. The change would be from industrial business park to residential.
Thank you. Jim, you want to take us through this one?
Sure, thank you. So the Development Office has received a request from the property owner and a future developer to change the land use for this area, maybe for approximately 34 acres. Currently, it's the land use is slated for the business park. This was an extension of the previous TIF District number 8, which has been closed. And it was also an extension of the TIF number 4, which is the Walmart development area. So the developer and the property owner is requesting a change of land use from the industrial to residential use. Staff has reviewed the requests and feels that this could be an appropriate change of land use. just given the market that we have and the availability of other business park lands that we have in the area. This would fit in with the area also. We have town residences to the south and also to the west, and then the freeway and another vacant farmland to the east. So staff would recommend approval of the comprehensive plan change as long as Plan Commission finds that this would be acceptable also.
Thank you, Jim. John, I think what we'll do is we'll introduce the next topic as well, since this is essentially the same property, and then we'll maybe open the public hearing up for both items at the same
Sure.
time.
Sounds great. So the additional public hearing, the third hearing for the evening, is a request for a zoning amendment change for approximately 34 acres of land located at the northeast corner of South 18th Avenue and County Trunk NN. And this is would be a rezoning from the M3 industrial to the RS4 residential.
Jim, do you want to walk us through the zoning?
Sure. So this is the actual zoning portion. This is what's going to actually regulate the property for the zoning setbacks for the lots, the size of the lots, and everything. So we're asking the request from the M3 industrial park or business park district to RS4, which is single family residential. This would fit in, and again, this would set the guidelines for future platting for a subdivision, and then also set the guidelines of the lot sizes and whatnot for the development of this. And again, staff has looked at this area and feels that given the amount of industrial and business park that we do have available throughout the city, that this change of land use could be a recommended use for the area.
Okay, thank you, Jim. So the first item is the land use change in our 2020 comprehensive plan from the intended or the desired use of the land from business park to residential, and then the zoning portion of it is really the mechanism of use of the land. So from M3 industrial to RS4 single family residential. Both require a public hearing tonight, and I am going to open the public hearing in just a minute on both topics. But before I do that, Newman is the developer who's approached the city for potential development of this property, and they are here tonight and would like to give a presentation on their desire for this land. So I'm going to invite Brian Lindgren. Did I say that right? Yep. All right, Brian, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. As a West Bend East graduate, I'm excited to be in front of you here today and looking forward to the opportunity to bring a development, a new neighborhood to the city of West Bend. So you can go ahead to the next one right away. Just because we haven't been here in the city of West Bend, I want to introduce ourselves. So Newman Companies is a family of companies that operates as a land developer and a home builder under a couple different names. The primary of which is Harbor Homes. We also operate with Tim O'Brien Homes, Halen Homes, and Renova Remodeling. And altogether, we'll build usually over 400 to 450 homes a year in southeast Wisconsin. So since 2007, we've been very active in the area. We've developed in over 44 communities throughout southeast Wisconsin, 6,000 acres of developed land, half of which nearly has been dedicated to green space, 70 miles of roads built, enough to maybe make a municipality of our own, and a lot of lots. But as we said, go ahead to the next one, please. So this is just a map of where we're active today, all throughout Washington County, Jackson, Germantown, in Hartford, as well as Ozaukee County, Waukesha County, Milwaukee, Walworth, and beyond. So here, go ahead to the next one. Housing is something we're passionate about. It's what we do. We feel that it's an essential need of a community. It's an essential need of a family. The reality is we've been on quite a roller coaster ride in the last 20 years here in the state and in the city. Throughout the state, as we know, platting in new homes, we're humming along until the early 2000s, where you can see the blue line take a big jump up, and platted lots kind of exploded from 2000 to 2005, 6. and then it fell off the face of the earth, as we all know what happened. Same thing happened in the city of West Bend. Platting and development of new lots was active through about the same time, and then it too fell off. And although there's been some bounce back in other municipalities, West Bend's have been a little bit hesitant to get some new development activity going, and now's the time. So we can see that we'd love to get something moving here in the city. So you can go to the next one. Just a couple of things that we've all been experiencing. Yeah, go ahead and click and bring the whole thing up. National data, as we all know, we've had a lot of inflation. Housing is one of the metrics in there. Almost 7% a year in housing nationwide. Washington County and West Bend have outpaced that. We've felt that our home values going up beyond a normal rate, almost 10% a year. You can see the median home sale price in West Bend is about $350,000 now. There's still remains a shortage of homes across all price points. In the last 12 months, 268 homes sold. That's really not that much in a city of over 30,000 people. In those price points, about a third of them are over $400,000, and that's where we think we can operate best. Really, the cost of new construction drives it to that price point. So as of the end of October, there was really very little on the market, just over a month of inventory available. So that's why we're very confident that we can come into the city of West Bend. We look forward to it. There's a need for housing here, and we look forward to discussing this opportunity and hoping to provide that housing. So you can go ahead to the next one. As was mentioned before, the surrounding land uses and zoning is what's up for discussion today. We feel like this is a really good fit for the area. You have transition area from industrial and commercial uses to city residential with city services of water and sewer, and then lower density in the town, but residential nonetheless. So with that, I mean, we'll say that, you know, it's a cohesive development. You know, the things that we hear, is it too dense? Well, it's in the city, and we have to maximize the resources of water and sewer available to us. We do work to prevent environmental stuff, but coincidentally on this one, no wetlands, no environmental corridors, nothing of the sort. Is there impact on the surrounding community? But yes, there is. But without new homes and new tax base, we can't pay to improve roads, and we can't pay to fund, you know, municipal and emergency services. So I would say that, you know, as you take a look at this, look at it from the perspective of is it a good fit? Is it a use for the area that's cohesive? And I would argue that it is. I think it's a win-win for the city as a whole. It unlocks some additional business space because we'd have to bring water and sewer through the existing corporate center, and it provides much-needed housing for residents, new and current residents in West Bend. So, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brian. What I'd like to do now is open the public hearing for both of these topics. So the land use change from business park to residential, and the zoning amendment from M3 industrial to RS4 residential. So the public hearing is now open. If you'd like to address the Plan Commission on either one of these topics, now is your time. There are several people in the audience here tonight, and I assume you're here for this topic. I think just out of courtesy of all of us in the room, let's try to keep your comments maybe to 2 or 3 minutes. We'll set maybe a 3-minute timer, and And if you hear the noise go off, maybe just try to wrap up your thoughts. If somebody ahead of you has already said what you wanted to say, maybe just come to the mic and say that, I agree with so-and-so that spoke before me, that sort of thing. I just don't want to be here till 2 o'clock in the morning. But I do want you to have an opportunity to be heard, and I think all of us would agree that we appreciate you being here, and we do want you to be heard. So there's no rhyme or reason, there's no order to who comes up first, but maybe whoever comes up first, if the next person wants to stand near that pole there and be the on-deck person, let's just kind of do it that way. So, sir, come on up.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the council. I do have a document that I prepared.
When we have you come up to the mic, we do need to take minutes tonight, and so I'll have you just state your name before your presentation.
Sure.
Thanks.
Name is Ron Struck, and I reside at 3411 George Court in the town of West Bend. And the information that I had received previously indicated that there was a development going to occur on the corner of 18th and NN, 90 homes on 34 acres in the town of West Bend. What I've heard tonight sounds like something different, that the city actually owns that parcel. I don't know if that's true or not, but all I understand is that there's 90 homes on 34 acres in the town of West Bend. There are zoning regulations on the books in the town of West Bend that indicate what is required as it relates to conservation and conventional developments in the town of West Bend. And I ask you, are you complying with those particular regulations that are currently on the books? I've been a resident here in the town of West Bend for 24 years. And I moved out to the town of West Bend and built a home so I could escape the congestion and the postage stamp properties, so I had some room for my family and me to enjoy the natural environment of the town of West Bend. And now I see this development kind of encroaching on that particular area. And I don't know exactly why. Maybe it's greed, maybe it's, hey, the developer gets more money to sell more homes, maybe the city gets more money for taxation, but isn't this the town of West Bend's property? And isn't it required that you follow the regulations that are on the books right now, as opposed to imposing what this gentleman talked about? I'm not opposing the development, not at all. Okay, development is fine, but within the confines of the regulations that are on the books. And I don't see that happening here. I can cite a couple of the sections of Chapter 17 in the West Bend, town of West Bend zoning ordinances that discuss how much common space you have to have for a development, how much the lot sizes should be, and how much the size of the structures should be. I don't know what's going on here, but are you following those rules? I'm not sure, because I don't know all the details. But there's several sections, subsection G and subsection H of those rules in the zoning regulations for the town of West Bend. Tell me you're following those, and I'm fine with it. But if you're trying to cram 90 homes into 34 acres, that brings that down to like a quarter acre. How are you going to do sewer and water unless you're bringing in that from West Bend? And that means you might be annexing this property, which I thought was the town of West Bend's property, not the city's. So again, I have concerns about compliance with the regulations that are on the books. I have concerns about what it's going to do to the beauty and natural environment for the area. And I know you may be elected or maybe you're appointed, but you have to hear your constituents and what they're saying and take that in consideration as you decide what you're going to do for this particular parcel. Fine with development, but keep it within the rules that are currently on the books. You may change that later on, but currently you shouldn't be able to cram 90 homes into 34 acres on that parcel of land. I thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. I don't normally comment based on the people who are speaking, but I do want to make something very clear. This is city-owned land. It has been city-owned, the city of West Bend, I think, for close to 30 years. So just want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. There's no...
That's city-owned.
Excuse me, not city-owned.
Isn't it jurisdiction?
City of West Bend jurisdiction. So there's no annexing going on or anything like that. This is within the city of West Bend. Sorry,
Correct.
go ahead.
My name is Stacy Hafman. Thanks for having me here. So you are correct. This was annexed from the town of West Bend over 20 years ago. The annexation happened so that we could save our green space, and the idea of the annexation was to have this as industrial. So I have a couple of questions to your agenda. If you're putting on here with your comprehensive plan and zoning amendment, you're putting on here that you're also asking for a request for action, which I'm assuming then means you are going to vote on it, whether it's going to get passed or not passed tonight. I'm not sure how you can pass anything on here when you have an approximate. What is approximate of 34 acres? Is it 34.2 or is it 70? Your city's 2020 comprehensive plan, that was not included with your agenda. Nobody knows what this comprehensive 2020 plan is. Also, under B1 and 2, nothing in here says anything about single family. However, when you go to your regular agenda and you go 5A1 and 2, you list it as RS4 with another approximate 18 acres of land. If you are requesting action, this should be very specific and detailed. What is the actual acreage? What and exactly how many homes are being put in there? Not an approximate of 90, not an approximate of $400,000, because we've heard all over the board. We heard originally that you wanted to put low-income housing in. You don't list in here anywhere what the zoning is. So I'm asking these questions so we have a better understanding as the town of West Bend residents that live in this area that is drastically going to impact us by traffic, and there is watershed because we have Silver Lake right behind it. There are very, very serious concerns that we have. So I don't know if there's someone up here that can specify or give me a definition of the questions that I just asked. What is this? What is the approximate? And what you're saying residential, you listed RS or you stated RS4, but it is not listed on your agenda for 4B1 and 2.
Okay.
Is it RS4?
That's fine.
Or is this changed to something else? Anybody have an answer?
What? Go ahead.
So the 34 acres that is the approximate 34 acres. The reason why it's approximate is because we don't have a full legal description of the property for it. So it's approximately 34 acres.
So you're going to make an amendment and approve it on an approximate?
It's an approximation of the amount of area that we have. I mean, we go off of our, so I guess let me go to a different map. So the 34 acres that we're looking at, that we're talking about is this yellow area, okay? That's the 34 acres.
Well, I mean, so you say. I don't know that because you don't have it listed on here, and you're going to approve something that does not have a legalized description.
Again, it's
listed in the report.
It's right, it's in the report. That's why it says approximately 34 acres. I mean, it could be 34.1. I mean, we didn't go specifically down to the 10th of acreage.
But it could also go up to 50 because you have an approximate on here.
Because it's based off of a legal description of the property, and our legal description that we have on file is about 34 acres.
It's the tax key number.
Based off the tax key number also, correct.
Okay.
So we did list the tax key numbers for these.
I see the tax key
For the properties
numbers.
that are being rezoned and for the land use. So the first item is the land use for the 34 acres, which is, again, the maps are a little hard to read, but if I go back to this other one, this big white M3 area is the 34 acres that we're looking to change the land use for.
So
Okay.
you're actually looking for more than 34 acres, because you're combining both of them. So you're combining the 18 acres off of NN west of 45, and you're also doing the approximate acreage, 34 acres on 18th Avenue. Are the
so-
90 homes combined between these two tax key parcels, or are we talking a subdivision in one tax key parcel and a subdivision in another tax key parcel?
So the other items that you're talking about, the 2B that
Yep.
we're setting the public hearings for, that are down on the agenda later.
Correct.
That would be for the 18 acres to the east, correct.
So
these are two separate action items that we are doing tonight for this.
two separate,
Two separate considerations, two separate properties.
two
you know.
separate subdivisions.
Well, yeah, two
Okay.
separate areas that are being proposed to be developed, yes.
And I'm assuming the proposal, what the developer just said was, he's thinking that the minimum value would be $400,000. Is this the minimum value you're putting on all of the lots, on all the homes being built in? Or are you putting in there $200,000 homes or low-income housing mixed in with this?
That part, the city doesn't regulate the values. That's based off of the construction value. And the developer was saying that they're going to construct 400,000 or more dollar homes in that subdivision.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nellie Rice. I'm a resident out on Silver Lake on Quas Drive. And the thing that I've heard overwhelmingly from my neighbors in conversations around this is a lack of, and I think we just saw an example of that, clarity regarding how this, what is proposed here. And what I mean by that is I initially heard low-income housing. Then I heard something like condos. Now I'm hearing houses on individual parcels. That lack of clarity, or if this has been an iterative process where you've discussed various steps or various ideas regarding what these homes are going to be like, is a very great concern, especially to the lake residents. Now it seems we're talking about large homes on tiny pieces of land. Previously, it was something to the effect of apartment complexes. I feel that the council, and especially, I'm gracious that the builder was here to discuss it, the developer, there is a lot of room to gain support behind this initiative if that clarity is provided to the residents it will affect. One of the very big concerns with that, as they mentioned, is it is very close to Silver Lake. There is a watershed there. That can also drive up traffic on that lake. It's a very small lake compared to somewhere like Lake Cedar, which can damage the frontage properties. Those are downstream concerns, but the very big one is that this idea for this project keeps kind of shifting, or at least the understanding of it does. And unfortunately, Newman's website does not really give us a lot of clarity on that if you do look at their website. Their developments range from what looks like subdivisions to things that look like very compact subdivisions made of like condos and apartments and things. Something I would very much caution anybody considering this decision is, no matter where anyone stands, we're about to go through a large economic shift and things could get better, but that might take a while. And so selling a $400,000 home in West Bend, Wisconsin, who's going to buy those properties? We in Rotary recently had the school board representatives present talking about their referendum. Their referendum shows that there's been a decline in population. I don't know the exact numbers on that, but you don't decide to close a bunch of schools if your population is booming. Bringing new people into the area is always of value, but putting it in a space like that is a very great concern, especially considering how it will be done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nellie. Go ahead.
So just for clarity on some of the comments that Nellie mentioned, when the developer came to the city, it has always been a conversation of single-family homes at 400,000 or more. In terms of those other types of uses that she mentioned, those have not been any conversations that have occurred at the staff level or from the developer. So I'm not sure where that comes from, but just to kind of try to answer your question there, it's always been discussed as single-family homes.
Elizabeth.
Good evening. Thank you to the City, the West Bend Council, and the Planning Commission. As a collective, we propose to express our thoughts, which were emailed to most of you earlier today on the proposed development. I want to especially note that I'm a community member of 25 years. I'm a member with Mayor Ongert on the West Bend School Board Foundation. I'm a healthcare provider / physician. Probably many of you know my husband is an elected official. We all understand the need for safe and sustainable housing. It's a want, not a need. With that said, echoing the comments of the prior speakers, we have grave concerns about this proposed development and how it's been communicated to us. We all learned about it probably 10 to 12 days ago, so we've been collecting our thoughts, reading your websites, trying to garner what information we can. Today, while walking on the 18th Avenue, which does not, as you know, have any pedestrian access or bike access, I ran into one of the gentlemen who's a homeowner on 18th Avenue. He hadn't even heard of it, and he's the closest to this development. We primarily have concerns about the safety of the area and the environmental impact. I look to many of my neighbors. I think about the shutting down of 18th Avenue. I was told it might take a short amount of time, a few weeks. I think we all know that's true. We've seen construction all over the city, county, and state. These roads take a long time. I worry about my neighbors, how they would get out for emergency care, how they would get groceries. Of course, we're worried about the environmental impact, which has already been debated this evening. I think we can all say there's a watershed. I hike routinely on the Ice Age Trail off of Paradise. They rerouted the whole Ice Age Trail so as to not impact Lucas Lake, and I don't really know the specifics, but I believe they rerouted so they would, as hikers, we wouldn't impact Lucas Lake for whatever camp is on there, Girl Scouts or Y. You have other copies of our documents. Some of this has already been noted. One of our talking points was that the requester and staff have not demonstrated that there's a need for the zone change. We don't know whether it's high-density residential, low-density residential, the costs, as other speakers have identified. Being a school board foundation member and a proud parent and community member of the excellent West Bend schools, I wonder if one side knows what the other side's talking about. Per the West Bend School District referendum proposal, declining birth rates and aging population are contributing factors to the decline in the enrollment for the district. Our buildings have more capacity than needed, both now and the future. We now all know the referendum passed. I think 2 schools will be razed or destroyed, Fair Park and Decorah. What about creative consideration of usage of those properties in addition to UWC? We've referenced and reviewed the 2020 city plan in this regards. So in conclusion, for transparency, we ask that you not rush into approving this resolution today, as many of us have been told could happen, and as we've seen on a property prior, that we ask that there's adequate data and rationale for the zone change, and that impact reports are required, that we really consider the safety of 18th Avenue, which then goes south into Mayfield. That also does not have shoulders. There's no bike access on any of these roads for 90 houses, and all the adjacent residents on George Court, Silver Lake, Quas, et cetera. And that we ask that the impact reports be done by independent consultants, and the reports be made to residents with an opportunity for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Good evening. My name is Steve Lindley, Supervisor, Town of West Bend, and Town Representative on the Silver Lake PRD. Just a couple comments on this. This, as the government agency in the town, this was a complete surprise to the town board itself. We learned about it the same as the other residents did. This and from Washington County Insider is where I think a lot of people learned about that. Looking at some of the plans on here, right now I think this was copied from the Washington County Insider story. It looks as they're going to dump traffic out onto Highway NN. That area where it looks to dump out on there, that's very hilly. There's not very good line of sight there. There's a lot of problems with excessive speed in that area of the road. Also, you're going to dump that, there's going to be an entranceway across from Quast Drive. That looks like the only one. My question would be, why aren't you going to the north instead of putting it out to the south? I know the city of West Bend has control over 18th. That's probably one of the worst roads in the city, next to Oak Street. Additionally, you're going to I'm afraid there's going to be a lot of traffic that's going to go down 18th Avenue. And people will, because I'm going to assume that this is, it's going to be a bedroom community. West Bend is becoming a bedroom community. It's a commuter destination. And that gets into the town road. We have enough problems funding just trying to catch up and fix some of our roads. And this is going to put a lot more traffic on 18th. That's not a wide road. When it gets into the town of Polk, it does widen out. And then my last comment was, I mean, granted, this land was annexed 30 years ago, but we do not have a boundary agreement with the city of West Bend. There were boundary agreements. I've only been on the board for 2 years, and just from attending the meetings, it doesn't seem like there's been any interest in the city to make a boundary agreement with it. Granted, it's your land. As the town, there's not a whole lot that we can do about it, but I'm going to support my constituents that raise the concerns about safety and just the increased traffic that is going to come into the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Hey guys, I'm Aaron Rodman. I live. Can you guys switch maps on there?
Yeah.
Can you go to one that closest up in there? Nah, sure, maybe another one. Yeah, no. Jimmy, you got one that the one that highlights my house over there?
That's one right here.
All right, so I live on what's now, since we were annexed in 2011, the houses were there. I lived in the big blue box on top there. It's 2955 South 18th. I lived there for 15 years, and I lived across the street in the old Quast farm for 8 years after that. So about 25 years I've been over there. So I'm very familiar with the area and different developments that were proposed over the years. In fact, Jim and I even talked about at some point us buying to expand Extra Mile over there. One thing just to bring up from one of those conversations is I was told at one time that no access on NN would be allowed between the freeway and 18th because of the hill and the site over there. Couple questions I have though in regards, sorry if I bounce back and forth between the two, the plan and the zoning. I have trouble keeping them separate. Let's see. Couple quick things. The 2020 plan, the original 2020 plan, I don't know if you can pull that up. The 2020 plan shows green space coming all down 18th Avenue, around my house, the empty lot in the middle, and Gay's house over here. That has disappeared with the new plan. I had always been reassured that as the industrial park would move down there, that green space would be around our properties there, similar to what is along 18th Avenue where the business park exists now. There's a berm that's about the height of this, there's a berm that's about the height and the width of this room blocking the two. If this development was to go through, I would like to see that green space stay there. That was on the 2020 plan. I don't see any reason to move it. I'm not opposed to neighbors, but I'm going to have 8 neighbors button up to my house there. Truthfully, I probably am the most involved in any of this here. I do have questions that may be for a different time on how that would affect our ability to run portions of extra mile snow plowing through there, which we've been doing for 15 years. I do have a concern that in me reaching out to people, when I heard about this, my alderman was not made aware of it. I believe I'm the one who actually made my alderman aware of it. The town of West Bend, even though technically it is not in the town, nor has been, it butts up to the town on two sides. Common decency says to let the town be involved. The feedback I got from people with the city is they have never seen something get pushed through this fast. So a couple other quick questions with it. Big one is that open space. I would like to see that addressed before any decisions are made as to whether, because that would affect, you can't fit 90 houses there if you put that green space in there as well. So that would affect things. Sidewalks, there have been countless meetings I'm sure you guys are all tired of with who's paying for sidewalks down 18th Avenue. Selfishly, I got like 150 yards of sidewalk there, sewer and water, that I don't want to pay for, and I'd like to see the developer have to take care of that. Let's see, the sidewalks there, I want to stress the importance here. Multiple children have been hit by vehicles on 18th Avenue. There is no sidewalk. There's, for the most part, no shoulder. It's about this wide. I've been there 25 years. My kids are like 12, 13 years old before they're even allowed to bike up to Walmart. But with the type of homes these would be, they're going to be young families in there. There's going to be lots of kids. There's going to be lots of walking and biking from there up to Walmart and town and the other stores over there. There will be danger. That's a narrow road, so that would need to get addressed. Other similar developments within the city have had to my understanding, have had to put in some open play places, and play space and parks. There is none of that included in here. This is the city of West Bend. It is 2.5, well, city of West Bend has amazing parks all over the city. That corner of the town, which there's been no need, it's just been me, it is 2.5 miles walk to the nearest park from there for kids to play in. A development that size should have a park there. The other question, I mean, personally, I'd rather see it stay light industrial or something similar, like it always has. Something to consider, how much of the reason that this has to be something like residential now is because the city has been buying its own land to sell as light industrial, such as where Milwaukee Tools is. Direct conversations I've had with the landowner are, how am I supposed to sell any industrial land here, which I believe after the last pandemic was like shovel-ready land, when the city all but gives it away. That's something to the extent. I'm not saying that's how it is. I know there's all kinds of things behind the scene that I don't see that bring value in. So I don't take that as an insult. Just something to contemplate there. And I think that's all the concerns I have. I do, with the exception of, I do find it very alarming that there'd be votes going on this already with the town, with you only having feedback right now. You guys got like 30 minutes to contemplate what we all say, like not a night or two to think about it. That to some extent means it's either going to be rushed or a decision's already been made. So I'd encourage you guys to take a little more time. Not necessarily don't do it, but take a little more time to make the decision. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Aaron.
Hi, I'm very familiar with the area that this gentleman was talking about, but I remember it as a child, and I know the farm. It was a Toma farm we're talking about, and way before your time. And I was if I repeat myself or I'm redundant, forgive me because I'm 94 if I make it to another month. I just want to say that when I saw the farm, it was all rural in those days, all farms. And so as it gradually expanded, they built residential, but they tried to maintain as much of the natural habitat as possible and to protect it and make it a more rural atmosphere. And I just heard you a property on 7th Avenue that you said was compatible with the neighborhood. And this is one of the things that many of us were distressed about when we heard, oh my gosh, on those 34 acres that I used to run around on as a kid, you're going to put 90 homes. And it was very distressing to us because we're thinking, this is not compatible with the idea of our rural, quiet neighborhood. It happens to be in the watershed, by the way, between the Silver Lake and the Quoss Creek area, which could be severely affecting the areas around, including some of the natural habitat like Silver Lake and the other areas. So I'm one of those people that one of the ladies was talking about that might need a trip to the hospital in the next few months, and we didn't want to have that highway all blocked up so I couldn't get through. But anyhow, if you're talking about expanding, if we need more housing, I was listening, I also taught in the city of West Bend for 30 years, by the way, and they're talking about getting rid of Fair Park and Decorah School, which I taught in those days. And I'm thinking, Fair Park, if you need expanded housing, that's got all the infrastructure right there if you need more housing for people that are moving in or whatever the purpose. But that would be a perfect place to build more housing. Then I'm thinking, they're getting rid of Decorah and Fair Park because enrollment is so little, but yet what they're doing down in Jackson, they're spending all their money down in Jackson they're obviously growing down in Jackson. So if we need housing, we sure do need it somewhere down there. So basically that's what my concern is, that try to maintain the atmosphere of the area as rural as we possibly can get it and keep it and still provide for the needs of the people no matter where they're from. So thanks a lot for your attention. I know you guys have a lot of work, and I've been on many committees myself, and I know how thankless they sometimes can be. So thanks a lot for everything. Please consider our needs and our concerns, and good luck.
Thank you.
Good evening. Paul and Marlena Alvarez. We are kitty corner from where this is planned to happen.
Right off of 18th and Silver Lake. So we are directly across the street from this.
So one of the reasons we purchased the property is because it was in a rural area. And we had a nice open area for the grandkids and everything to play. We have a fair amount of traffic going through there already. And if you're going to be adding 90 houses on these little postage stamp properties, the road's going to have to be widened, I'm sure, and I'm sure I'm going to lose property due to that. That's nothing that I'm really crazy about, but the way that it's kind of getting snuck through, I'm not real crazy about either. We all learned about this real recently, and I'm not sure when this actually started, but to get a letter in the mail and now we're all here, obviously we're all very concerned about it. And I agree with everyone. I think you guys should all take a deep breath and think about this before you make a final decision.
I'm not done yet. So what I would like to say is, while I understand that this is a monetary gain for the builder and possibly for West Bend, please consider the residents of the area, right? We're the ones that are going to have to live with this decision. We're the ones that are going to have to, deal with the potential, more traffic on 18th. Right now, we listen, because we're right on 18th, listen to all the cars, all the traffic going back and forth. The road is not big enough. Even if you make it bigger, there's still going to be issues. What about also, too, in cases of emergency? Are you going to have, if a house goes on fire, are you going to have enough firefighters there? Are your ambulance crew? There's other things to consider by making this decision. I'll be very honest and upfront, I oppose it completely. So.
Thank you.
Hi there, Jason Ketcha. I just moved on to Silver Lake. I'm privileged to live on the lake in such a beautiful area. Moved here to be in a rural community. I know I'm in the town of West Bend, not in the city, but definitely concerned about the impact on the water quality. You know, Silver Lake isn't just for the homeowners, it's for this whole area. There's access to it. So definitely worried about the pesticides and runoff and everything impacting the water quality. Has there been any sort of study done on the impact? And then my other big concern is just the open space. So it's just a precious thing to have in the community, and locating 90, I mean, it sounds like very high density housing in the area, absolutely does not go in with this area. So I really would ask you to reconsider and not approve this zoning change. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Hi, my name's Mary Hafman. I live on Silver Lake Drive, and I have a letter from a constituent that wanted me to share it with you.
Sure.
Can I give it to you? Again, I'm from West Bend, and I have to say to the gentleman, the developer, we all are West Bend East graduates too. So we're excited to be here and in the community. My parents have been here, and my grandparents for well over 100 years. So this woman left this message for me. I'm not going to totally read it the whole, go over it completely, but she was stressing the watershed and how we feel like there should be a detailed analysis on how this rezoning would ultimately by increasing the density of this parcel within feet of not only Silver Lake. I hope you understand that Silver Lake drains into, I think it's called Paradise Lake now, because we used to take a canoe there, down to Lucas Lake, into the Silver Creek that goes into the Regner Park, into the Milwaukee River where the West Bend Company, which my dad worked at, which is now Holmes, it all flows through. So the possibility of pollution, of encroachment, just like this other gentleman said about the chemicals, would definitely impact the entire region. So she feels like, and we do too, that there should be a little bit of a standoff for you to consider all these different issues, not only the density, but the watershed of Silver Lake, Cedar Lake is involved in this, and the Quas Creek that also drains into the Milwaukee River. So I know there was a comprehensive plan and that was done, and it was to protect natural areas, open spaces, and groundwater resources. By adding this large amount of impermeable surface, in other words, it can't drain, within feet of Silver Lake, would create a stormwater and erosion hazard. And we really think that there should be a stormwater and erosion hazard study before you approve this plan. We feel like with this uncontrolled growth, there will be a detrimental effect on the watershed, groundwater, and it'll not only affect us, but our future generations. And by the way, when I was a little kid, my grandfather, who was on the Silver Lake Sanitation Department, I used to go over to these people's houses with him, most of them really didn't like him because he would have dye and he poured it into the sink and it would go down, and we'd go stand out at the lake and see if the dye went through. And if it did, they had to redo all their septic. So I mean, we really want to take care of our community and our environment. So hopefully you'll consider some of those issues. And lastly, but she just is, and we all are really feeling like there should be, I know that the developer said there wasn't any issues on the watershed or environmental. There should be some parks and there should be some green space, and these people that are living on 18th Avenue, I mean, they definitely should have some buffers as much as possible. So thank you for your time. And we're all opposed to this.
Thank you, Mary.
Good evening, gentlemen. I don't see any ladies up there, so I guess, this is a men-only proposition. My name is Frank Carr.
I live over on Paradise Valley Lake, and I have a question. You guys are considering the zoning change, and basically what you're saying is you want to, as I understand it anyway, what you want to approve this evening is just the opportunity for a developer to come in by changing the zoning to a residential. But my question is, will there be another public hearing once some proposed development plans have been put in place so that people who live in the area can come in, like we have a meeting this evening, and understand what has been proposed from the standpoint of the density of the zoning, the plans, the layout, and all that sort of thing? Will there be another public hearing?
Jim or John, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, there would not be any other public hearings after this. So tonight's public hearing is for the land use consideration and the zoning consideration. After that, then we go into the platting process for the subdivision. That stuff would all be available online when we have our agendas available for that consideration.
So as a result, this is the only opportunity that the residents in the area have to comment on what's happening. And once the important part comes up, which is what the actual development's going to look like, the public is not going to have any opportunity of commenting? That doesn't seem right to me.
Correct. So we follow the state statutes that we have out there for land use and zoning, and that's the time that we have the public hearings. For the regular development portions, we do not have requirements under the state statutes to do a public hearing or any kind of public notices for that.
Well, you just mentioned the word requirements. Can you do it if you want to do it, even though it's not required? Because if you can do it, then I would recommend that you do it, because that's the important part for the people who live in the area. They don't want 90 homes on this 34 acres, and I agree with them, not because I have any vested interest in it, but that's a lot of housing. That means houses on tiny lots. Once you take into consideration all the roads that take up a lot of space, you're going to have what appears to be a large house if it's a $400,000 house on a small lot. And that's high density, in my opinion. And so it seems to me that you ought to take the opportunity, which apparently you have, and I assume most of the people here would agree with me, on both sides of the room. There's a lot of people who are interested in this, a lot of voters, and you're all elected, that you take the opportunity to have another public hearing once the thing is designed so that people can see what it's going to look like and what these homes are going to look like once they're on these little tiny plots. So I would encourage you to do that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Frank.
Good evening. My name is Pat Fries, and I live in Overlook Court. And I have a comment or an observation, and it's voiced by many of these people here tonight. I didn't see anything in the paper about it. It seems like you're trying to cover it up, or, well, exactly, bamboozle, or so people don't know what it is. I mean, it's like a secret. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
I'd just like to make a clarification on the lady's comment in regards to the notices. We did send out notices. The land use notice was sent out 30 days prior to this meeting in accordance with state statute, within 200 feet of the property being under the consideration. Okay. So
200 feet? There's 200 no residents within
correct.
200
so
feet.
The state statutes require us to notify people within 200 feet of the area that's being processed or being considered. We also did the same thing with the land use or with the zoning. That one is published twice in the paper. That land use was also published in the paper 30 days ago. The zoning amendment has been published in the paper 2 times. So 10 days prior to this meeting, and then also the week before that. So we have properly noticed the land use change and the zoning change in accordance to the state statutes. I just wanted to make a clarification on that so that people don't think that we, didn't follow due process for this.
How did you notify us? I live within 200 yards.
Do you have to notify, because it's in the city, do you have to notify the city residents?
We notify both the city and the town residents that are within 200 feet of the property.
Regular mail.
By regular mail.
Sir, go ahead.
My name's Jim Bender. I'm a resident here. I live on 4331 Pebblestone. I was the first home built there 26 years ago. My wife and I have a family of 4. The kids are all out of the house now, all young adults. We moved down in this area because we like the rural aspects of it. As you can see from the maps here on 18th Avenue to the west, all those lots are at least 1 acre lots. In the Pebblestone subdivision that I'm in, there's 9 lots. They're all 1.5 acres except for the 2 that abut 18th Avenue, which are 2 acres. And to the south of 18th, those are all 1.5 acres to 2 acres. And I forget how many homes there are, probably about 35. In my opinion, I can see where a developer wants to populate this area as much as possible. Looking at what I know about land use is not a lot. But RS4 stipulation says there's going to be 5.4 homes on 1 acre of land. So these are going to be very condensed homes. If you look at everything around, our RS2 land classification is 0.67 homes on 1 acre, which I would feel would fit this area more properly and conform to all the homes in this area. I disagree with this development. I understand everything that's been said here. I agree with everybody in this room on all the things about the traffic on 18th. That intersection on 18th and NN right now is a hazardous intersection, very hazardous. I think a lot of people around here know the traffic there is usually a state patrol guy sitting up on the hill there at least 3 times a week watching the traffic. I personally witnessed about 6 years ago somebody blowing through there and slamming into a telephone pole. My wife and I and the neighbors were the first ones there. By adding more traffic into that area, it's a small road. And again, I just do not feel that this conforms to this area at all. If I would be in favor of the developer having it conform with, 1 acre lots, have 34 homes in there plus with recreational area and green space. But this is way too condensed for this whole area of town. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Carol Struck, and I just want to ask you one question for you to just truly ask yourselves. Would you want 90 homes in your backyard of your houses? Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Which elementary school the residents of this subdivision would attend? Because that's impactful with what's going on at the school district level and the traffic patterns. Would they go to McLean or Jackson or the now to be closed Quorum?
She needs to come to the podium.
Elizabeth, can I have you come to the podium and so we can...
I want to clarify, it's Planning Commission, not Council.
Yep, I will.
I was wondering if someone could address which school district, particularly the elementary school, because we know the changes in the upcoming school plan, that the children of this proposed subdivision would attend. Would they attend McLean or Jackson or the soon-to-be closed Decorah? We haven't heard anything about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I cannot answer that question off the cuff. That'd be something that we'd have to pull up the school district boundary map, and there could potentially be changes in the future with Fair Park and Decorah closing. I also want to make sure everyone realizes this is the Plan Commission. This is not the Common Council that you're speaking to tonight. Yes, sir, if you could come to the podium.
Steve Lindley again. My kids grew up in there, and they did attend McLean School. I believe that is in the McLean, and They did go to Badger, but none, I think with the change where they would go Silverbrook and then they go to Badger. But elementary school was always McLean.
Thanks, Steve.
I'm Dr. Paul Rice, and I live at 5345 Quast Drive on the lake. You know, it really seems like everybody's objecting to the density. And as I was thinking about this project, I realized that there's a situation of a person selling the land, and it's not going as an industrial situation. And there's also, we have concerns about having affordable housing for new residents in West Bend. Years ago, there was a change in zoning, I thought, for the parcel that is on the other side of Highway P and on Rusco Road. That was brought up to me as chairman of the Town of West Bend board, and we agreed with it. The reason we were asked was the boundary agreement, which expired in 2021, I understand. It isn't as though there are not places in the area, if you desire, to put higher density housing, because that was going to be high density housing. I think when you put properties that are acre-and-a-half zoning, which is what we were doing in the town of West Bend on both sides of 18th Avenue, and you compare that to high density, it really looks kind of strange. I'm certain that a land use could be found for this property in a residential way that would be much more compatible with all the surrounding properties. And the other issue that I wanted to bring up is that I know you're going to want to sewer and water these things. That's why smaller properties make sense, is because it works. But I wonder how this is going to impact the Silver Lake sanitary sewer, which the pipe pumps to the sanitary facility on the other side of the river. I wonder if any plans have made. Will that have to be re-engineered? Will it have to be redone? I'm just curious. It should be thought about, just like the school situation. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Dr. Rice. Tom.
Hi, my name is Tom Moyer. I live on Overlook Circle. I've been there for about 4 years. I just got a question and a couple comments. The property use is supposedly $400,000. Does that include the price of the lot? Or is the lot separate from the $400,000? It's included? So the whole package, land and house, would be $400,000? Okay. Just based on my observation, I just think with all the recent development downtown, with all the housing, apartments and condos, I mean, it's been an incredible amount of building going on down there. I don't see a need for this. I don't feel that it's, I think it's going to be an eyesore. And I guess I would like to see more energy and time spent on utilizing land such as where the UWWC was. It's kind of a tucked away area. I'm guessing it's county land and it's sizable. I think that would be a better spot. So
That's all I got.
Thanks, Tom. Anyone else wishing to address the Plan Commission? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I got to come back and say, it's like 100 to 1, and the only one is the developer. So please, please, go back to the drawing board, come up with something better for this wonderful piece of land. Yes. Thank you.
Could you please consider the difference between that property and Silver Lake property, Quas Drive, Silver Lake, Martha Court, the areas around? Could you please consider that? You got apples and oranges going. Also, please consider the runoff. You know, the watershed's going to be affected. Watershed, rainwater from the rooftops. You're washing your cars in the driveway. Wastewater full of detergent, it flows, it's going to go into Silver Lake. That's the watershed. Silver Lake is excellent quality. Out of the 3 lakes, Silver Lake has excellence. Little Cedar and Big Cedar are good, and that's going to affect our water. So please consider that too. And please consider the differences. You got the houses on Quas Drive and Silver Lake Drive and elsewhere compared to 90-some houses across. It's apples and oranges. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to apologize for something I misspoke. In talking, I said that the landowner said something to me. It was not the landowner. It was the realtor for the landowner relaying something over to me. And then just the other question I have real quick is, I don't know how the whole format works for this. So with the amount of stuff that was brought to you guys today, everything from watershed to sidewalks to green space to parks and whatnot, so I assume you guys go into closed session and then vote on this?
We do not, no.
No. Okay, so could you just explain to me and the rest of the people here, how and when you guys ponder these things that were brought and discuss them, and then at what point you guys move to a decision on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
I can attempt to do that, and I'll ask Jim and John to help me if I misspeak. This property has been vacant, obviously, for a long, long time, and it has been privately owned for a long, long time. It's currently zoned M3 industrial. Under M3 industrial, there's a whole bunch of different things that could be built on this property. One of them, for instance, asphalt plant?
A concrete facility.
A concrete facility could be built on this tomorrow. If the private owner who currently owns this land sells it to somebody or maybe leases the property to build like a concrete batch plant or something along those lines. That would not have to come in front of the Plan Commission. That would not have to come in front of the Common Council. That it's the way it's currently zoned, and it could literally happen tomorrow. There have been absolutely no discussions between the Plan Commission, the Common Council on this topic. The first time this came before the Plan Commission was at our last meeting to schedule the hearing, which is what's happened now. There are no closed door meetings. There's no closed sessions. It is not surprising to me that there are some Common Council members who are unaware of this because it has not come before them yet. This commission right here is made up, obviously, of myself, the mayor. There are 2 councilmen who are sitting up here as well, a part of this Plan Commission, and the rest of the members are appointed. What else can I tell you? This is the first step in the process. If this is voted on and approved tonight, it would then move to the Common Council. It would come in front of the Common Council for their approval. And then we would, let's say it all is approved, the comprehensive plan would be changed from business park to residential and M3 industrial, the zoning to RS4 residential. The way this started was a developer, I assume, contacted the property owner with interest in building homes. And he spoke about that earlier tonight, and he showed you charts that there has not been a lot of homes being built in the city of West Bend, and they viewed, the developer viewed this as an opportunity. And obviously, as you all spoke about, a very pretty piece of property to develop. So that's where we're at in the process. I do take offense to hearing words like bamboozled or pulling the wool over your eyes. This is the process. And I don't know if I comfort you by telling you that, but there have been no meetings prior to what you are literally seeing here tonight. There are notifications that go out for public hearings. The state statute is 200 feet within around the property. And I realize that this is pretty rural, and so that doesn't touch a lot of homes. There are other public hearings that have come before this Plan Commission where it touches, the 200 feet notification touches hundreds of homes within the city of West Bend. Again, this is city of West Bend jurisdiction. It has been for a long time. What am I missing, John or Jim?
I guess, the follow-up part would be if City Council were to change the land use plan, then at the developer's timing, they would submit for a plat and probably a development agreement to build a subdivision. At what timing that would actually occur would be really up to the developer to submit that. They may be within months, or they could wait 6 months or 9 months or something like that to put that together. So that would show up on agendas. It's not a public meeting, but they are public. They're not public hearings, but they are public meetings that council would be taking action on. So it is an open process.
So that's, I appreciate that, John. That's kind of looking into the future, is that plan would come before the Plan Commission. I do think it is wonderful that the developer is here tonight. He is still in the room. He heard the past hour and 15 minutes of this public hearing. Whether they take your feedback and change their plan, I don't know. I mean, that's up to them, and it's really not up to us. Paul, were you going to mention something?
I just have a clarifying question. So your comment that if we approve it tonight, what is it? It is just the rezoning. It's not approving the plat. And as John just said, when the developer comes to that point of 90 lots, 40 lots, 63 lots, whatever it is, there isn't a public hearing, but that comes back before this body for approval to then take up to City Council if this body approves, correct?
Yes.
So with the rezoning, how would you address something that isn't? So just to be specific with the rezoning, what was brought forth tonight was a map that does not include the green space that I referred to, but that would be specific to a rezoning. So how would that get addressed if there's not currently a proposal that has the additional green space along 18th Avenue as something to vote on?
So the green space that was identified on the current plan.
Yes.
Okay. That green space was designed for separation between the uses, for your residential use and the residential use on to the west. Okay. Between the industrial and the residential uses. That's why that green space is shown as a buffer strip on the current land use plan. The new land use plan, because it's residential, like same use as the other ones, we typically wouldn't have buffering.
Aren't those three lots
designed for that?
Aren't those 3 lots currently B2?
No, those 3 lots are currently still temporary zoning.
Still temporary zoning.
Yep.
Okay,
where we left it open for the owners because of possible future development.
Sure.
So
then with
this being another residential subdivision, we typically wouldn't require large buffer strips in between residential subdivisions, from subdivision to subdivision or from use to use. The reason why the original plan had that large separation was because of the the industrial uses that could occur on that large track, and that that provided the separation and screening because of the disparate uses of residential versus industrial. So that's why that buffer strip was there.
So what if I was to come to you and with a proposal to change my zoning to B2?
We would have to change the land use for the property and have the same, we'd go through the same process as we're going through tonight. We'd set we'd introduce it, set a public hearing, and then have a public hearing for it and introduce your land use change and your zoning change.
Instead of going down all these roads, am I hearing pretty correctly that a buffer zone is out of the question?
As a large buffer zone, it's not being proposed, correct, because it's the same residential
large,
use.
Medium, small, any buffer zone?
With residential, you typically don't have large green space areas separating uses that are similar.
You typically don't have 8 new yards showing up to a yard that I very well might park 8 wheel loaders on.
Sure. So there's nothing saying that the developer still can't provide a screening area in between the uses. There's nothing saying that they have to or that they can't.
Okay. So it'd be something that you would encourage me to work with the developer directly on.
Or yeah, we could take that, or we pass that concern along to the developer for that. Yes.
Okay. And then, as far as expenses with sidewalks going in and who pays for that, that would be a different meeting, correct? Because that doesn't affect sidewalks coming down here would not be part of the zoning change. That would then be part of. Sorry, I'm forgetting the terms, but when the site plan would get approved? Because that's a big concern, is who's footing the bill for these sidewalks. But if this is the wrong meeting, just tell me that's the wrong meeting.
So typically, with a subdivision, the developer would install the new roads and the curbs and the sidewalks within their development or anything that would be adjacent to an existing street, and doing any improvements to any intersections that would warrant, maybe there's a left turn lane, those types of things. So they typically would handle those. In terms of the reconstruction of 18th, that would be through a different process. Typically, all the way from Paradise to NN, that would be a different process.
There is a house in this development, there's houses on this development that would be on 18th Avenue. So with those houses going all the way up to 18th Avenue, that would not trigger the sidewalks being constructed?
So they typically, the improvements occur adjacent to their particular properties, correct? So if they had for instance, they're proposing one house on 18th Avenue, I think they're purchasing it, it's between 2 other houses.
Yes.
They would be responsible for the improvements, on 18th for that little section. Okay. So whatever that width is, correct?
And that's my concern, is I have one on the north of me and on the south of me. I'm the one right next to that one on the south you're talking about. So then that 150.
But the full improvements of 18th would be handled through a different process. The developer would not be reconstructing 18th from NN to Paradise, which is essentially what people have commented on about putting bike lanes through that whole area. So that would be through a different approval process.
So the taxpayers would be responsible to upgrade 18th Avenue in order to accommodate this subdivision.
There are multiple mechanisms of how road improvements could occur. They can occur through special funding from the state. They can occur through
not the developer would be a better way of wording it. Just the developer
they would
is
typically they would be responsible for their frontage, that kind of type of thing. It could also be funded through other mechanisms, like, I don't know if you want to mention, but
other mechanisms. It could be our annual capital improvement plan. It could be a TID district that's formed. It could be special assessments. It's a variety of mechanisms to pay for the reconstruction of the street.
Okay. If I'm hearing it right, I will be on the hook for the sidewalk going through there, though. And sewer and water. Like, I don't like being around the bush. Just say Aaron, and I can live with that.
Aaron, we really can't say for sure. Really can't say, because we haven't gotten to that point.
Okay, seeing how the rest of 18th Avenue went, I'm going to assume I'm paying a big bill for the sidewalk.
There is not currently any sort of special assessment on the books for this section of 18th, correct?
Do you want to mention the next item later on? Or just want to?
I just have one more question, and I'll try to make it quick. When you guys are contemplating rezoning this to RS4, was RS4 specifically asked to be a RS4 from the developer, or is that what the city is deciding that it should be? Because I'm on your zoning page, it's RS1 to RS4. RS4 is the least restrictive. It says on here that the lot size needs to be a minimum of 7,200 square feet. One bedroom dwelling is 1,000 square feet. Two bedroom dwelling is 1,000 square feet. Three bedroom, 1,000 square feet. And a four or more bedroom dwelling is 1,200 square feet. So I think we can all do the math at $400,000. The biggest house you're gonna get in 90 homes in whatever subdivision, because you said there's two, is gonna be 1,200 square feet.
Those are minimums.
Those are minimums. That's the minimum size in our
Exactly.
zoning requirement.
But he said 90 homes. So we can do the math.
Sure.
90 homes are not going to be much more than 1,200 square feet. So my question is, do you guys have the power to go back and say, maybe, obviously, we're all concerned about this, and it's more because the amount of homes, to do this as an RS1 or an RS2. RS4 is the least restrictive, going all the way up. Maybe going up to a higher number with the lot size being bigger, the house size being bigger, would make everybody feel a little bit better than putting all these tiny little homes in this RS4 zoning. Or maybe you guys need to table it and go back and figure out with this developer something that is going to be a happy medium for everybody, and maybe it needs to be a little bit bigger of a lot size and square footage size. These are tiny homes. 90 homes, and that's just in one. We don't even know what's gonna be in the 18 approximate acres, because it's two subdivisions. We're just asking for a little time to think about this and be respectful to all of us as well, understanding that it is the city, but right across the street is the town of West Bend, and we all built homes. I built my dream home out there. And now we have to deal with the fact that we could potentially have 90 in one subdivision, and Lord knows in another subdivision, all these people, all this tightness, all this traffic. And I think that we all deserve the respect to have our voices listened to as well. We may not pay city taxes, but we pay taxes, and we pay a lot, especially those of us that live on a lake. That's all I'm asking, is to maybe table this and think about it, and the developer should come back with a different plan, and you guys should think about how this space is going to be used, where there's some sort of happy compromise. Thank you.
Thank you.
I moved there 3 years ago, and I moved there because it was a good rural community with large lots and a place that I wanted to be, and people maintained their homes there, and the traffic was not so bad. I think a traffic study should be done prior to the zoning approval, and the reason I say that is I know that you're not responsible for the development of the subdivision, but you are responsible for safety. And doing a traffic study would tell us what is happening in that area at that intersection now, and what the potential use of that intersection would be for safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Hi, Jackie Gambucci. I live at 3229 Old Hickory Place, which is directly to the south. I have some really quick questions and comments. Joel, I know you said the process has been, you just found out and now you have this meeting, but regardless, it does seem kind of fast, and this is the first that any of us have heard. And I'm not saying you've had all this time in secret meetings. I don't believe any of that, but it just does seem super quick, like just to push it through in that timeline. Well, the other thing I just wanted to mention was the 200-foot thing, which kind of made everybody laugh. But it may be like the rule, just like it's not a rule to have another public hearing. It's not required by the state. And maybe the state said it's 200 feet is all you need to do. But to me, just common sense and maybe common decency would be to contact neighbors, even if they're outside of that 200-foot mark in this situation. Because really nobody seemed to know anything, including Aaron. So anyway, my question is, years ago I had a property on the north side of town. It was a commercial property, and I was interested in having it rezoned. It was a small rezoning situation, whatever. So I went to the city and asked them how to do that. So this is my question. I'm asking, what is this process of rezoning? Because here it just seems like you bring it up at one meeting, it goes to another, it gets passed, and we all move on. But at that point in time, which was some years ago, I was told I had to get signatures from adjoining properties, and it was I think I counted like 50 signatures I would have to get in order to ask that be rezoned. So with this process, it's just making me wonder if the process has changed, or like what is the process for rezoning?
I'm going to have to defer that to one of you guys. I can't comment on the signature thing. That's new to me.
I can't comment on your specific situation, what you're describing.
I mean, it was a city of West Bend thing, but it was some years ago.
I've been here for 26 years, so
it was within 26 years.
I don't know who you would have dealt with on that, because it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have required any kind of signatures from adjacent property owners.
Yeah, I mean, I came to this building to ask a question.
Pardon me?
So
I don't know. So from the process that we've always had is that the property owner has the right to petition for a zoning change. Now, some of the process has changed, you're right. Back in, I believe, 2010 is when they changed the land use laws, where our zoning and our land use have to match. So if you have residential land use, you have to have residential zoning. Okay, so that has changed over the course of the years. But for a zoning petition and zoning process, typically what it is that it's initial meetings with staff to see if the change is reasonable and could be supported based on other portions of zoning code and zoning law. Then after that, once that's determined, then we move to the process where the property owner can petition to the city. Forms and application fees and everything are done for that. Then we schedule that on Plan Commission and do the public hearing, or again, notifying within 200 feet, public notice, Class 2 public notice in the paper, so it's published twice in the paper, 10 days before the meeting and a week before that. And then we have Plan Commission do their review of the request and make a recommendation to council whether it's, they feel that it's appropriate or not appropriate to rezone the property. Council also then acts on it after Plan Commission's recommendation, either changing it or not changing the zoning then. So that's in a nutshell, the typical process for a zoning amendment change, to change zoning on a property.
Okay. Well, that wasn't my experience, but
Some of the guys were
whatever.
asking,
That's why I
was
was
it
wondering.
Possibly an annexation? It wasn't?
No, it was a commercial property that I wanted to rent to somebody that was outside of the manufacturing zoning that it was, and I don't know. I don't remember what I did 2 weeks ago. I'm not going to remember the exact specifications of that, but I was told I had to get signatures, and I just basically dropped it. So.
And unfortunately, I don't know the specifics on that because I was not involved on that.
Yeah. And just a recommendation, I guess. I mean, I know you put things in the paper and whatever, and I don't know how many other people here are guilty of never reading the paper. And even if you do, you don't really, I don't know, if you don't know that something is coming or happening, you don't really read like a zoning thing or whatever. So I guess my recommendation is to have that personal touch, to a mailing or whatever to those people, maybe outside of that area, if it is a less dense area that you're talking about where 200 feet doesn't touch anybody, whatever. Final question, really for the developer, I guess, would have the answer to this, but if you could translate, so if it's $400,000, hopefully minimum, for a property and the house that's on it, approximately what square footage does that translate to? Is it that 1,200 square feet, or I have heard an estimate of 1,400 square feet from a experienced realtor, but I don't know for fact. But what is your estimate of? What? 1,900 square feet. And is that, so there might be some at 1,200 and there might be some at 1,673? Okay, would be the smallest one. Okay, that's a promise? Okay. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Hi, my name is Damian Hose. I live in between Paradise and NN on 18th, and I'd like to know why there's a need for 90 homes on that corner of NN and 18th when there is currently over 365 available homes in West Bend, with 184 of them being within the $400,000 range, and also the 7% increase within the last 4 months of also homes being put on the market. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you, Damian.
Yep.
All right, anyone wishing to address?
Hi, my name is Terry Canas. I live on Pebblestone. My wife was just speaking before. The question I have is, what about ambulance and medical service in that area? If you need to get to the hospital, that's going to go down 18th Avenue, which goes through all that residential up there. The speed limit is 35 miles an hour. That's if you go to the south. If you go to the north, you're going to run into West Bend. So how are you going to get to the hospital in a reasonable amount of time if you need to? There is no exit or entrance to the bypass on NN. Oh, that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Terry. Anyone else wishing to address the Plan Commission? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Roger Strubing. I've been a resident of the town of West Bend for over 20 years. I'll try to keep this short. I had no intent to speak this evening. It's not really my style. Since the Newman Builder Group is still here, probably could put a lot of people at ease if maybe you were willing to do some reconsideration of the density. Obviously, you guys are an incredibly large company, super successful, 90 homes in 34 acres. With a little green space would be nice. A little bit of consideration would be nice. I understand the city did their minimal requirements to inform and to go through with their process. They're all great people that are up here, mostly volunteering their time. Us towners do come into the city, and we are neighbors to the city. And many of us know people sitting up here, and some of us don't. So I guess my quick thought, you've heard 100 residents in the area with their concerns about this unique development in our neighborhood. I think most of us here probably are not opposed to a development, but considering the number of subdivisions I've seen your company build and other companies like you, there's usually some consideration to green space. Neighbors take it for whatever it's worth. I just ask you, as the board tonight and the development group, maybe just slow this down a little bit. The money will be made, you know it. You know the tax money is going to be made, you know it. What is the need to slam this so quick? Why can't we just slow this down with a few studies on traffic to ease everybody's mind? Why can't you maybe be a little bit more cooperative with the neighbors? Instead of 90 units, how about 70? And you raise each lot up $5,000 or $10,000, whatever it is. I'm just sitting here tonight going, this is just, I understand, I respect the board immensely. I don't know most of you. But it just seems like this is just so quick to happen. It seems kind of like it's been kind of kept under the rug. And we don't have nothing to say. We understand. We're towners, because that's the city. But I think it would be a really good move of your gigantic organization, who sells a lot of homes in the state of Wisconsin, to at least consider some of the neighbors that have been out here for at least 30, 40, 50, 60 years. That's all I'd like to say.
Yeah. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
I'm just going to pause for a minute and see if there's anyone else that would like to address the Plan Commission. Now's your time. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Have you spoken? I have not. Then you go first.
Good evening. I'm Bethany Thede Ray, and I live in the town of in the city of West Bend on 516 Highland View Drive. We just have gone through a major reconstruction of our neighborhood on Highland View Drive. We and our family went through some very stressful times with this whole change of that area up there without advanced notice to what was going to happen to our property. We're very pleased with the work that was done. The road is beautiful. The skateboarders love it. I invite them in to go down it at 8 o'clock at night so they're safe, even though we don't have enough streetlights. I live in the city of West Bend. I pay taxes. I'm an educator, worked in the school district, so did my husband. I respect what all these people are saying. They want communication about what's happening in their area of their lovely homes and our lovely city so that they can feel good about the progress that's going to be made in whatever fashion. The referendum passed. In the information from the school district on the website, Fair Park will be no longer, Decorah will be no longer. We already have a gorgeous empty university land in our city. We have beautiful land places in our city where beautiful homes could be built with infrastructure, streets, traffic patterns where people are familiar with school buses. I drove down 18th Street last Thursday evening at 5:30 when it was getting dark, driving the speed limit, 35 miles an hour. There were 2 cars behind me and a truck. A truck passed me on a double yellow, passed the guy behind me and passed me on a double yellow. Then the guy behind me passed me on the double yellow with the car coming at me. I had to go onto the shoulder before I turned onto Silver Lake Drive to avoid an accident. It is not safe. All the building of those homes would really put people at risk. What is the large plan for this area, our city, and what's going on? I just think the rate at which things are happening for people that have been in this city, in this township, in this area for many, many years and contribute hundreds of thousands of tax dollars, it just is common courtesy to take a little time to be conscious of the planning process, the decision-making process, and the support of your constituents and the people that support you and support all of us. So to make a decision tonight, because that's what your process is, just sounds very, very quickly. And having been a recipient of things happening very, very quickly to get a project done, I can tell you it's unsettling, even if what is left is very nice, minus a gorgeous garden. But thank you.
Thank you, Bethany. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to clarify that the document that I provided you was based upon information that I had received that that parcel was actually owned by the town of West Bend. I didn't realize it was already annexed in part of the city. But that being said, you might want to look at that a little differently from what I've put on there. But my question is, if you guys go ahead and you decide to rezone this as whatever it is for residential, is the recourse of the people in this room to then go to the city council and petition them not to approve it? Is that, because there's no other hearings that are going to be had based upon what James had mentioned. So is that our recourse?
So if Planning Commission takes action tonight or at some future date, they are making a recommendation to City Council,
right? And
then City Council takes the final action at a future meeting.
But would allow us to come in and speak to that City Council?
It's an open meeting. It's not a public meeting. So
it's
not. I mean, it's an open meeting. It's not a public hearing. So it's not the formal.
So we would not have an opportunity to speak our mind at that
meeting.
So we couldn't speak at that meeting, correct?
You could.
Yeah, I mean, if a room full of people showed up like this at a council meeting that I'm the chair of, I would allow people to speak. It's not typical, but I'm not going to be a jerk and tell you can't speak. I mean, I think
it would allow us an opportunity.
I think we've done a nice job of listening to you speak tonight. I also see that we have some council members. Well, first of all, we have 2 council members up here. Sure. I see one of them in the audience here tonight. But yes, I mean, that is the next part of this process would be the council.
Would it allow us an opportunity to influence the council in terms of their decision?
Sure. All of our email addresses, both mine and the 8 alderman email addresses, phone numbers are on our website. I received several emails prior to this meeting. I apologize if I didn't respond to all of you, but I have read it. I personally can speak for myself, have read every single one of them. And yes, you can call any one of our aldermen or email at any time. The phone numbers and emails are on our website.
Okay, I just want to make sure our voices are heard.
Yep. And I would just encourage you to pay attention to our agendas that are posted on because at this point I wouldn't be able to tell you which date it would appear on council.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good evening. Greg Velsky, Silver Lake Drive. I have a concern that the amount of people that live on Silver Lake Drive and Quas Drive and Overlook Circle, that's the only egress we have. There's a dead-end street. There's roughly, I'm just guessing, 80, 90 people using that access. During rush hour, I have to wait sometimes, and 2 or 3 cars will pull up for me. 90 cars come in on that and introduce to that same area. it's going to be a bottleneck. You're going to have 5 to 10 cars on Silver Lake waiting for somebody, since they would have the right of way. Anyone who gets on 18th, I think it's going to cause a safety issue, and with the Freighter Clinic being a block and a half and Freighter Hospital the other direction 4 miles, it's a busy use road, 18th, and I'm just concerned if I need to take my wife to the doctor or the hospital, I might have to start an hour early. So, but thank you.
Thank you. All right, last opportunity. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I sincerely apologize for using that word, but we just heard about this like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, so I am sorry for that word.
I wouldn't have known it was you. I just heard it coming from over there. You didn't have to do that.
It wasn't me.
Thank you for saying that. Anyone else? If not, I will make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to close the public hearing. This is your last opportunity. We're going to close the public hearing. Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The public hearing is now closed. It is now time for this Plan Commission to have discussion amongst the commission. Obviously, the builder is here if we have questions for them or for John or Jim. So I guess with that, maybe I'll just open the floor and see if there's any comments.
Joel?
Yes.
So when we've looked at developments like this in the past, we do have a say to help shape the site plan, correct? So as the developer moves forward with whatever concept, we would have a say, and obviously public would be able to influence that through discussions with council, with us. But my thought with development is I always like progression. You don't go from single family to high rise. It's always a progression of single family to duplex to multifamily. So I look at this, and believe me, I'm all for development. Everyone knows me, I'm for development. But this particular parcel, it seems like a pocket between business and the town. I would like to see something less dense. As someone that lives in West Bend that drives down this road. So I'm for development. I think this is a good opportunity for residential. I'm leery on 90 homes on that parcel. That's just my personal take.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Mike?
I'm curious, what would this do to the timeline if we did table it for a month?
John or Jim?
I would say it would probably just push everything off, or I should say move the schedule down at least 30, 45 days.
Well, there would be there wouldn't be another hearing.
Correct.
So your next opportunity would be to take action in December. So you would, if you chose to delay a decision, that would be in December, and then if you took action to make a recommendation, then it would appear at a city council meeting in December. So that would probably be off by about 30 days too. So.
And I was wondering too, when is the decision on how we would fund the road developments? I mean, wouldn't that be good to know when this development is being created?
Jay, do you want to speak to that? Thanks.
Yeah, I can help. We work with Ellers, our financial advisor, to help develop a project plan anytime there's likely to be a tax incremental finance district involved. And we've had conversations with the developer already about the creation of a TIF, and that is a financing tool for road improvements and other infrastructure that's needed as part of a development. So the project plan will absolutely include the reconstruction and improvement to 18th. That has been a plan that we've been working very diligently throughout the last few years to get 18th reconstructed. It's a main north-south thoroughfare for us, and we've got it reconstructed through to Paradise. And so the next segment of that would be to take it from Paradise down to NN, and this development will help us do that. So there are no details of that. Max and his team are starting to work on the cost estimates for 18th reconstruction, and a funding plan is something that I'll be charged with as the city administrator here in West Bend. And the project plan will help unfold that as well as we work through the project plan and the TIF. It's a separate conversation than what you're dealing with here tonight regarding the rezoning, but I understand the question, and that's the best answer. You guys already talked about the potential funding sources and the package of funding sources. I would share that it's not been the city's practice, and it doesn't mean the council couldn't choose to do that, but it's not been the city's practice to special assess for new improvements in recent history. 18th had some special assessments on it from the north, and that was a developer agreement that was executed many, many years ago, pre this plan commission, well, I think all of you, and pre our current council and mayor, and pre many administration. There have been no conversations regarding special assessment with this developer. I can share that with the plan commission as well. So I don't believe that to be part of the funding source package for 18th, but it certainly could be discussed. Again, it's just not likely to be. I don't believe there's an appetite for it with the common council. Any follow-up questions, Mayor? If that's okay, that's the
great.
process. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
John.
was going to follow about the special assessments, but Jay explained it. Couple things on this one too. Changing this from manufacturing and to residential, to me makes sense. I mean, you want to buffer. The concrete plant, I think, would be less favorable than having residences in there. Now the density, that's something I think needs to be worked out. Big question that came up, Silver Lake with the sewer and water quality. The city takes that very seriously. We'll be on sewer and water. This project would be on sewer and water, city sewer and water. That's because it's in the city limits. Max works really hard with the runoff water sewer plans. We see those all the time with the council, so this would be no exception to that. 18th Avenue, that's definitely an issue with the traffic and the safety. Parks, play lots, green space, definitely an issue, needs to be addressed on the site plans. Schools, I couldn't tell you about the schools. I know they're going to be attending somewhere. I think there's going to be some private parochial schools in there too. So that'll have to fall within the school district's plans. And then the road development, working with the TIF district and TIFing this might not be a bad idea. Personally, I think if this does get the residents, the zoning gets approved, if the developer's open to working with the surrounding community, I would hope he would, and maybe get some input that way would be really helpful, I think. So those are my 5 cents.
Thank you, John. Matt, go ahead.
I'll echo some of John's comments, and I think part of it is also the understanding of where we're at in this process, and part of this is the first step in actually the developer really moving this thing forward is for the zoning approval, the change to the comprehensive plan and the zoning approval to allow him then to engage further with city staff in terms of what does that actually look like, putting together what the actual project plan looks like, doing the plat to understand, and then coming to the plan commission with this is the specific plan, the specific number of houses, the sizes, maybe not every home in the subdivision, but size ranges for the types of homes and the sizes of homes going on those properties, so that we as a body are able to see, okay, this is now what that development is going to look like. We're not to that step yet. The first step is making it so he's able to actually bring that plan to the plan commission, because there is a property zoned appropriately for that future plan. Fortunately, they have been here the entire evening. They have heard everything that you have said. They also know that we have heard everything that you have said. And while I've only been on the Plan Commission for a short period of time, there also have been other instances where a developer was here and there were residents of the adjacent property that voiced many opinions contrary to what was being presented at that time. And it was the same situation. It was a zoning change. He heard everything they said and came back with a plan that was much different than he had originally put together. One that the residents did not have nearly as number of issues with. In fact, minimal, if any, that the Plan Commission then approved to move forward with. We're actually going to be taking some action on that further this evening. So again, that has been part of that process. As I look at this, it's an opportunity for us. It's an opportunity to meet a need in our community for single-family homes, something that I've heard many, many times over the course of the last couple of years serving as an alderman in the city. We've continued to build multifamily, and it's been wonderful for our community. The question is, where's the single-family homes? Where is the single-family homes where these people now can move into when it's time to start families? Or the opportunity for families to move in this community and have single-family homes. We don't have an overabundance of new construction single-family homes. So that meets a need, and that's an opportunity for the city of West Bend and the greater West Bend community. I think in terms of 18th Avenue, as City Administrator Jay Shambo commented, we've been looking to do work on 18th Avenue because we recognize it does need to be improved. It is a safety issue. It's one that we need to make changes to. This potential, if we explore the opportunities further from a funding standpoint and setting up a TID and a TIF, it gives us the opportunity to fund those types of improvements to address a lot of the topics that all of you brought up this evening regarding safety, regarding lights, regarding the space, regarding speeds. Taking all those things into consideration, again, to improve that, to make it safer, not only for the city of West Bend residents, but for all of you in the town of West Bend who use that road, probably more so than any of us on this panel do. So that becomes a benefit. So from those reasons, I look at this next step in approving the zoning change as something that would be a great benefit to the greater community.
Thank you, Matt. John?
I know there's another issue brought up with emergency services. That's, I think the city has that covered. They do respond out that way anyways. The extra residences and that'll, I mean, they have, it'll fall within our capabilities. There was, the density of the lots again. I know there was some information or that I'd seen with density. And these are city lots that they're putting in, or they're proposing, are city lots basically, which aren't the acre and a half. I get that. I would love to have actually I do have a little bit larger lot in the city. But the size houses he's putting on are pretty standard at what you've seen in current past subdivisions that have gone in. There's some pretty nice houses going in. And I think what I've seen with Harbor Homes, I think Port Washington you work in, I've seen some places over there, it's pretty nice. So I think they'll do a quality product and hopefully make you proud that way. Biggest thing I got is with the contractor working with the people. Try to see what we can get to make it so he benefits from it, but so do you.
Yeah, I agree. I think the change to residential makes sense. I'm concerned with the density also, but also the traffic piece is a big concern and how that all fits together, right? I think that's a major concern. But I do think the change with the zoning makes sense as far as from the industrial to the residential. But I think there is lots of questions about what that end plan looks like than what the site plan looks like.
I have a question on the traffic study. Putting in an entrance and exit off of NN or just reconstruction of 18th, would that require a traffic study? Is that something you?
That was one of my first comments when the concept plan came through, is that a traffic impact analysis would be required because of the amount of traffic that's going to be, the volumes that are going to be added to the area. And obviously looking at where are those people going to go. So they're going to go 18th to the north, and to get to Paradise Drive and go work in West Bend, or if they need to get to the highway, they go to Paradise, get to the highway, or then they get to Pleasant Valley. And that was part of the comments I made on the concept plan, that these are things that I want them to look at, to study, and to see what improvements we need to bring to the road, the intersections in the area, in order to make sure that it's still safe even with these added volumes of traffic.
Good. You got an applause, Max.
Oh.
Is that the first time anyone's ever? No, I'm kidding. Another question as it relates to the watershed, stormwater management, that type of thing. Can you maybe explain where that falls in the process?
With every new development, we have to follow Chapter 23 of the Municipal Code. And so that was another thing we told them, is that they're going to have to develop a stormwater management plan to comply with the ordinance and figure out how they're going to manage the stormwater increase that they're going to create with the development to make sure that they don't negatively impact the surrounding area.
Okay.
And just a quick question on that, Max. Both the traffic study and that analysis, those are the types of studies that happen at that next step in the process, correct?
Yes. In order to generate those studies, they need to have a final plan. Obviously, I heard numbers about 90 parcels, 70 parcels. They are going to need to finalize those plans, and then from those numbers, that's where we get the traffic, the trip generations and the traffic volumes calculated, because we know now we have so many cars coming out. Same thing for the stormwater. We know there's so many square feet of impervious area, and we know where the drainage is going. So those studies come a little later when the plans are a little further advanced.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Question? Yep, Scott, go ahead.
I would just say, as most of you have, that I agree that residential is good in that spot, but I do feel the density is not the right fit for that location. So I would have concerns about that as well.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on Scott and Chris's comments on the transition that, again, we don't go from single family to multifamily side by side. I find it hard to, comprehend going from an acre and a half to a quarter acre. I realize, and I'm all about affordable housing, and I've decried, the state of West Bend and new construction right now. And commend you guys for what you're doing. I just don't know that this is the right parcel for that. And I get that this is City of West Bend, we can do what we want, but at the same time, I'm all about keeping good fences. And boundary agreement or not, we are all in this community together. And, the comments that we don't live here, but yeah, we still suffer from this. If this goes sideways, if some other development in town goes sideways, I don't see it every day, but we all have to live with it, and we don't want to get into that mode. So I'm in agreement that changing to residential makes sense, but the density is much too high for my comfort.
All right, I do appreciate the applause, but let's, if we could, we'll stop with the applause if we could. Brian, I saw you stand up. Do you want to come to the podium?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, and I do always appreciate listening in on the public hearings and hearing the neighbors' concerns. I know I'm outnumbered 100 to 1. That's common wherever we seem to go. But I've got to speak for that one, the one that doesn't come here, the one that is looking for a house, the one that wants to live in the city, raise their family, go to school, same schools as these folks have gone to schools that I went to school to, go shopping with them, go to church with them, all of that stuff. Those people don't show up at these meetings, unfortunately, because they have yet to hear about this new neighborhood. So we do want to try to take into account some of these comments that have been said, but there's many of them that I just can't answer. I mean, you've done a better job than I answering things about safety and how emergency services respond, the impact to the schools. I mean, these are things we hear everywhere we go and are addressed through the appropriate channels. Some of the stuff that actually I was going to respond to, Max probably did a better job than I could. The next steps after a zoning, is approved, if that's what happens. Plans are designed, so you analyze the impact to stormwater. What happens? There's very strict guidelines, much stricter than there were 10, 15 years ago, as to how much water runs off, how it's treated prior to runoff. What are the impact on the sewer service areas? Those are all things that get analyzed, just like traffic. And traffic is analyzed from a global perspective. It's not just what 90 new homes impact may have on a community. It's the impact of potential industrial users in the area. It's the impact of current residents, traffic up and down those streets, and that's allocated accordingly. So, those are the things that we can talk on. I know, that the density conversation comes up everywhere. The zoning proposed is a common residential zoning district within the city. That's what we would work within. I think somebody mentioned it was 5-point-something units per acre. That's the maximum density. We'll be under that. We'll design a plan that's under that, but conforms to the density and conforms to the other restrictions in that zoning district. The overall square footages, the lot widths, the setbacks, and so forth. That would be the next step, and that's how this stuff progresses. I look forward to kind of working with Max, with you all and the neighbors. I've met Aaron and I have chatted, and we just did here. The landscape buffer that was proposed, understandably, was a buffer between industrial and residential. Now we're residential to residential, but Aaron and I have spoken, and I'm happy to work with Aaron to provide, some sort of berm or landscaping, and because we do try to get along. But the reality is the city development is going to look different than the town development. We have water, sewer, sidewalks. There are plenty of people out there that are looking for that thing and not the acre or acre and a half. And this is a transition between industrial dense uses into town uses, and there's always going to be a step down in size, and it's got to be within the range provided in the zoning district. So, thanks.
Brian, before you leave, there was, I think it was Jackie kind of talking about square footage, and maybe it's too early to ask you this question, but what do you anticipate these homes to even look like? Are you thinking 3-car garages and 1,800 square feet, or 2 stories, ranches? Can you comment on that
I think
at all?
I will recommend anybody who's interested to go to harborhomeswisconsin.com. Their website is where all the floor plans lie. But I heard there's minimums of square footage. These are typically well above that. As my colleague Steve mentioned, the average size home that we're building right now is over 1,900 square feet. I would say the range within this neighborhood is probably that smallest home, 1,670 square feet, all the way up to 2,200 to 2,400 square feet. These are 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom homes. There are a variety of ranches and 2 stories. Some have 2-car garages, 2.5-car garages, 3-car garages. It really depends on the combination of options and features that the future owner likely will pick, some of which we will spec and design, but some of which the people will come and will build the home directly for them. So,
now I'm really going to ask you future facing. What do you think these homes would sell for?
Yeah, the reality is the cost of developing land has gone up exponentially. You know, putting in sewer, water. I don't have to tell all of you that here on the Plan Commission. You know, it's expensive to maintain roads and sewers and waters, and it's expensive to put them in the first time. The cost of labor, sticks and bricks have gone up immensely. I would say that the range of pricing is most likely to end up between $425 and $475 for that average home that I just mentioned.
While you're standing there, are there any other questions that the commission has for Brian?
I would just point out that I have dealt with Harbor Homes, and I think they make a good home. So, I mean, if something works out in that subdivision, I think we'd be in good shape having them building houses out there. So,
thank you. I think for every home that has 3 cars, there's one that has one that drives.
Yeah.
That's what the traffic engineers say.
Yeah, the traffic studies are quite comprehensive. But Brian and to your colleagues, thank you very, very much for being here tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion. The first one is going to be on the change to the comprehensive plan. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. The first one is to amend the comprehensive plan. Amendment 30, this will be Amendment 32, correct? As is stated in the memo and the meeting minutes, to accept the change to the comprehensive plan for approximately 34 acres of land located at the northeast corner of South 18th Avenue and County Trunk Highway NN.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Matt, second by John. Any comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Our next item is the zoning for approximately 34 acres of land located at the northeast corner of South 18th Avenue and County Trunk Highway NN from M3 Industrial to RS4 Residential.
So moved.
I'm sorry, I wasn't making the motion. I was just reading it, but.
Sure, I'm accepting, yes.
Oh,
I'm making the motion.
Gotcha. All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. Any comments, questions, discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
One nay. That motion carries. Our next item is a comprehensive plan and zoning amendment. I'm looking at item 5A1. And again, this is to set a public hearing. John, you want to take us through that?
Sure, I can do that real quick. So this is a discussion recommendation to set a public hearing for a change of the recommended land use plan of business park use to single-family residential use in the 2020 comprehensive plan for the city of West Bend for approximately 18 acres of land located on the north side of County Line Trunk Road and west of US Highway 45. And this would be to, essentially, you're just directing staff to schedule a public hearing for, in this instance, it would be a January public meeting. Because it has a 30-day notice, and we don't have 30 days between now and the December meeting because we've moved our meetings around. So it would be a January date.
Okay, so this is, obviously you can see what John just read there. This is just a recommendation to set the public hearing. I believe the date is January 7th, January 7th on this item.
So moved.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike Weston. Motion and a second to set the public hearing on this item for January 7th. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Want me to read the next one?
Yep, please.
Your next item this evening is a discussion or recommendation to set a public hearing for a zoning change for approximately 18 acres of land located on the north side of County Trunk Highway NN and west of US Highway 45 from M3 Planned Business Park to RS4 Single Family Residential in the city of West Bend.
Is there a motion? Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Again, to set a public hearing for the zoning change. All in favor? Did you have a question, Mike?
I was just curious if it was December, January?
January 7th, same thing.
Okay.
Same thing.
January 7th, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. I think we'll just take a brief pause here while there's people exiting the room before we go to our next topic. B, John.
Item 5B1 is a consideration of the possible action on scheduling a public hearing for a proposed project plan for tax increment district number 17. This would be a new tax increment district. It would include the lands, basically the southern edge of the lands would be NN, the western edge would be 18th. It would be part of the eastern line would be US 45 going towards the existing office park, going to up as far north as the parcel just north of a corporate drive. Staff is currently working with Ellers to prepare a project plan for that would be presented to you at your December meeting.
So this would be a public hearing on December 3rd is what I have written down. Does that sound right?
Correct.
December 3rd. We just did this not too long ago. If you remember, this is the first part of potentially forming a new TID district. First part of that process is a public hearing before the Plan Commission. Plan Commission is notified, the Joint Review Board is notified. It has to be approved by the Plan Commission, the Joint Review Board, the Common Council. There's several steps in this process, but this is the first part of a new TID.
And as Jay mentioned earlier, this project plan, and Max is working on those numbers. The project plan would include improvements on 18th Street from NN to Paradise.
So I will make the motion to set the public hearing for December 3rd. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 5C is a plat.
This item is a request for approval for preliminary plat for the development of a 12-lot single-family residential subdivision located at the intersection of Clearview Drive and Daisy Drive by Diamonds Holding LLC. This is an item that you have seen before. I don't know, Jim, do you want to give a quick background, and then maybe the developer can come
real
up?
quick on this. This is consistent with the concept plan that the Plan Commission saw a few months ago. The developer's looking at doing phase 1, which is the extension of Daisy Drive. Instead of the 11 lots or 12 lots, what the plat had before, we actually modified it slightly to include as part of the platting process due to requirements. We reduced it down to 11 lots, and it ended up creating a second outlot to the west and north because of the lands being reduced in size from what we could have for non-platted lands of less than 10 acres. Other than that, it's going to be a full road cross-section, curb gutter, sidewalk, street trees, and the lots do meet the requirements of the RS4 zoning, which exists out there, and staff would recommend approval with the conditions that we had in the staff memo.
Thank you, Jim. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Matt. Second, Jeff. I'll open this up for comments, questions, discussions, and I guess I'll start. I think we've come a long way from where we originally saw this concept to now having an official plat in front of us. If I remember right, this was potentially going to have just one sidewalk, and now this has sidewalks on both sides. Our street tree program can go in there and plant some trees. And also the lots on the south line up with the lots existing on I don't know if that's not Daisy. Creek, thank you. I'm very pleased with how this has turned out. Just my comments.
I would definitely agree, Mayor, in that regard, and this is, for those of you who are still here, one of those developments that I referenced in seeing what they originally brought to the Plan Commission to where it is now is something that has come a long ways, to your point. And also the size of the lots is something that they, again, heard, the developer heard what the neighboring residents had to say in a meeting similar to this, which impacted the final plan that they brought back to the Plan Commission for approval. So I'm very, very pleased with where this is netted out.
Any other comments, questions, discussion? If not, there's a motion on the floor. I'm sorry, Chris, we already made the motion. I'll just call the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. 5D, an extraterritorial certified survey map.
This item is a request for approval for three-lot extraterritorial certified survey map located at 3206 Lighthouse Lane by Donald Maurer.
Jim, any further comment on this one?
Just real brief on this. This actually is just to divide up the property into 3 separate parcels. They have 3 homes out there. This is just to clean up that the homes out there for the acreage that we have. Everything conforms to the design standards. We have adequate right-of-way for that, and staff would recommend approval.
I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Paul. Motion and a second on the extraterritorial certified survey map. Mike?
I assume that everybody's on board with it. You didn't have to notify anybody? All the 3 residences?
No. This is out in the town, so this is our extraterritorial jurisdiction.
That's right.
So really all that we're looking at is how it's configured and that we have adequate right-of-way out in the area.
Good question. John?
So the town sent this one to us. They're cleaning it up, or we are?
They are. This is actually a town development.
Okay.
Yep. So it's just so under state statute, we have jurisdiction to review anything within 3 miles of our corporate limits. So this is the reason why we're actually seeing this.
So is that going to happen with what, and this might be off subject, and if it is, correct me, but with what we just approved with NN and 18th here, is town of West Bend going to have to do the same for us?
No, they don't have the right to exercise extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Okay.
So it's just city review on that plat.
Yeah, so cities and villages have that extraterritorial ability and towns don't. Okay. So.
Good questions. Any further questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move into some presentations tonight. John?
Yeah, so real quick, I just wanted to, last city council meeting, we presented the Downtown Master Plan Quarterly Report. That is something that's new since sort of the Downtown Master Plan was adopted and some of the work was done downtown. It's just an opportunity to keep you all abreast to some of the work that's actually ongoing downtown that's implementing that plan. It's going to be presented quarterly to City Council, and my plan was to send it to you also following the City Council presentation, just so that you're all up to and aware, since you guys are intimately involved with the adoption of comprehensive plans and those types of things. I don't anticipate that we'll go through them in depth if you want, but it's there for your reading, and you can feel free to ask any questions or give me a call at any point, and I can go through it in more depth if you would like.
Great, thank you. And that is obviously you can see the one pager in the packet there, and great information, some really nice progress on the work that's been done downtown. And so thank you for putting that together and putting it in front of us. So.
And then item E2, I'll just move on real quick there. I just wanted to let you know that we kind of did change. Staff's been talking a little bit about the format of our reports. The top part of the report is intended to give you a little quick snapshot of, what's the item is about, where is it to address those things, so we're actually buried into paragraphs, so you can get a quicker glance at it. And then we're trying to, in the report, break things out with some headers and things like that, so you can, it's a little bit easier to read. It's broken up, so if if you're having to take a break at work and you're trying to get through your staff reports, you can know where you're picking up from and that kind of thing. Or, you all have busy schedules on the weekend and things. So just trying to make them a little bit more readable for all of you as well as the public so that it's a little clearer, just with a little bit of formatting. And if you have any suggestions or ideas, feel free to reach out to Jim or I. We'd be glad to try to figure out how to incorporate that to make them a little bit more usable for all of you.
Appreciate that. I noticed it. John asked if he thought we noticed it, and I said I noticed it. I think it's very nice. So thank you for doing that. Any other comments tonight?
Just
Jeff?
one quick question or comment. I think, Matt, you said it. When we have public hearings, I think it might be helpful to lead with, here's the process, right? This is what the zoning change does. Then the plot comes next, right? And I think, we deal with this a lot, and it's still confusing for us. So I think as we do that, maybe as we start a public hearing next time, that would kind of explain what the process is and what really tonight we're voting on, that sort of thing. I think you laid it out well as we were partway into it, and so I think that might help in the future.
Yep. Fair comment.
Yeah, I think, to Bethany's comment about communication, people come into this, they don't know anything. Oh my gosh, and I go back to, my backyard with Cedar Ridge. Oh my gosh, something's happening. And this is just the way it goes. And if we can help walk them through and dispel that before we jump into the bamboozling comments and so forth, I think it'll help everybody be a little more tempered.
Yeah.
I would say that 20% of the people in West Bend read the West Bend News. So are the agendas on the website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the agendas.
That would be the other thing about the communication of where people can look to see when the dates are. And I know you have a gazillion things you're doing and projects and everything, but the communication piece just makes people feel better about and support everyone with the process.
Yeah.
And I know you're trying this report, your weekly newsletters that we get, and now I'm reading them. It just
Thank you.
It's not. I wrote a newsletter for 5 years for my church. Let me tell you, we read them if we're interested in what's going on in our backyard. And so I just don't think these people had any idea, and you feel blindsided.
Yeah.
Like the experience, but again, it's a great state park.
Yeah. Thank you all. Mike?
And I know there was that south side development. I think you even went beyond the 200 feet for notification, and, that's, in some cases, that's nice to be able to do too.
Yeah, we, at staff level, we do look at the consideration for where to try to cut off or what makes sense for notification. In this case, it was one of those, it was spread out. So, and what we were hitting was very minimal.
They got the word around.
They did, yeah. Our next meeting is December 3rd and then January 7th. And I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving, if I don't see you around, but hopefully I see you tomorrow night at the Christmas tree lighting. It's supposed to be a beautiful evening, and come down and say hi. Thank you all. We're adjourned.